I had just gotten off a long shift and had to drag myself to my aunt's house. Every year for Christmas, I would drive upstate to her house along a stretch of highway that runs near Akron, New York. Most of the drive is through rural areas with barely any towns nearby. About halfway through the drive, I realized I was low on gas, which irritated me. My brother told me he had filled it up the day before. Soon after, I saw an archaic-looking sign for a gas station off the next road. It wasn't an official road sign, but literally a pole with a slab of metal attached with "gas off next exit" painted on. That seemed a little sketchy to me, but people do the same thing with fruit stands on highways, so I didn't think much of it. I pulled off the next exit on some run-down country road through dense woods. The whole thing was creepy and surreal. I kept expecting Leatherface to come running out of the trees with a chainsaw. Eventually I arrived at the gas station and realized quickly it hadn't been open for years. It was all rusted and the convenience store's roof was caving in. The gas pumps had all been taken out as well. I pulled over next to it and checked my gauge. I would probably only make it another half mile before running out, so I called AAA and they said they'd send a truck over. I left my engine running because when the headlights were off, everything was pitch black, and being paranoid, I wasn't sitting next to an abandoned gas station in the middle of a forest in complete darkness. Most of the wait was uneventful until I sensed movement around the side of the old store where my lights were pointed. I looked up but didn't see any more movement, so I looked back down at my phone. Then I heard someone yell, "Hey, buddy, come here," in a demanding tone. I looked up and there was a man standing by the old store looking towards me. He looked like a run-of-the-mill homeless guy. I was honestly spooked and figured he must have been squatting there. Still watching him, I rolled down my window and yelled, "Yeah, what's up?" I had my foot ready to floor it out of there at the first sign of trouble. "You got any change?" he called out to me. "Nah, I don't. Sorry, man," I replied. I looked up at him. He had this kind of vacant expression and was standing stiffly. Then I saw more movement. About 20 or so heads peeking around the trees beyond the man I was talking to. I couldn't see them clearly, but they were definitely people. I saw another guy start walking around the gas station. I turned around and sped off. I got as far away from that place as my tank would carry me and updated AAA of my location. The driver came, filled me up, and didn't say anything. But after he left, I called the nearest town's sheriff department. They said they'd send a trooper over to the location. When I got to my aunt's house, they called me back and said whoever was there was gone, but they could tell a large number of people had been living there for a while. About 15 years ago, my parents, my brother, and I were driving around the countryside looking for a way back to the highway after going to see a house outside of the city. The vegetation was mostly tall grass and dead trees. The dirt road wasn't lit at all, which gives the surroundings a kind of eerie feeling at night. My dad's Nissan Primera was making its way through the countless deserted crossroads, and we were relatively lost because there was no GPS to help us back then. As we were arriving at another crossroad, we noticed there was something in the middle of the road. It looked like a baby carriage. As we got closer, my father slowed down near the side of the carriage and my mother started shouting. There in the middle of the road was a beat-up baby carriage on its side and we could hear a baby crying. My mom went, "My God, the baby, get the baby!" And just as she was about to open her door, my dad punched the car in gear and slammed down the gas pedal, causing the car to drift. My mother was still crying and screaming with her door half open. Meanwhile, my brother and I looked back just in time to see 4 guys jump out of the tall grass on the side of the road holding planks, baseball bats, and other weapons. We eventually found our way to the highway and stopped at a gas station right at the entrance. My father told the gas station attendant what we had just seen, and the guy says, "Oh yeah, the gypsies. Those guys are always doing that to steal cars and money. They basically put a baby doll in a carriage, and when you stop the car, they jump out of the bushes and jack you for all your belongings." We never went back to that region. I lived in the only house down a country road. Everything else was pasture land and national forest for several miles. One night, at about 3 a.m., my 3 large dogs went wild barking. which sent my husband and I flying out of bed to check on our livestock, assuming coyotes were in the yard. Before we could even get our shoes on, we heard muttering on our front porch. My husband grabbed his rifle as the person outside started knocking on the door with no real urgency, but more like a casual visitor. I had my cell phone already dialing the cops, and my husband slid up to the peephole. A woman in her late 20s was standing there, patiently waiting a few minutes, and then gently knocking on the door again. She was not fidgeting or nervous and was not being aggressive. My husband said, "Ma'am, the cops are on the way. If you need help, they'll be here in just a few minutes, and you're welcome to sit on the swing right there and wait on them. But if there's anyone with you, we are armed in here and will not hesitate to shoot if anyone tries getting into this house." He said she kind of smiled, not in a creepy way, but like she was glad her knocking woke someone up. "That's okay, sir. I just wanted to let you know the thing in the woods is coming, and he'll be here soon. Good luck." He said she turned around and walked down the driveway like she didn't have a care in the world. It's a 10-minute drive to our driveway from the main road with no houses until you get into town, which is another 20 miles away. The cops looked all over the place and never found her. The whole situation freaked me out for weeks. Several years ago, I was traveling with an ex-partner across the country. I don't remember the exact area we were in, but I think it was somewhere in the Mojave Desert between New Mexico and Needles, California. I met this very old ranger who told me about a place 2 hours away where we could find some petroglyphs. He told me there would be no one out there whatsoever, and he was right. We filled up on gas before heading out and barely saw a soul for the next 100 miles in the middle of nowhere. I stopped the car and we got out when we saw the first sand dunes in the distance. They stood out on the landscape because in every direction for miles, the land was pretty much flat with scrub brush. My partner and I walked around the car and took pictures for probably 10 minutes since we weren't in a rush. Once we got back in the car and started driving away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw something odd. I watched as a tall, lanky man came out of the middle of the desert towards the road where we had just been parked. This struck me as strange because he was wearing an all-black long-sleeve shirt and pants. This was in the middle of the desert, at least an hour away from civilization, and then this guy just walks in from the middle of nowhere? I was convinced that we had just been parked where he was now, and we had been standing, spinning in circles, taking pictures. Everything was completely flat for miles, which meant he must have either been hiding inside a hole in the ground or he had been laying flat on the ground in the very short scrub brush. I stopped the car after pointing him out to my girlfriend. I told her I was getting out. At this point, I was probably 300 meters away, so I cupped my hands over my mouth and called out to him, asking if he needed help, but didn't get a reply. He just walked to the middle of the road and turned to us, putting his hands on his hips. I was confused and had a very strange feeling about the situation. I told my girlfriend I was going to turn the car around and just drive by to make sure he was okay, but she started freaking out, saying she had a really terrible feeling about it. She was practically crying, so I decided not to do that. I turned back to the guy and tried calling out once again, but he still gave no reply. Before I got back in the car and drove off, I noticed that he started running slowly in our direction, not waving or saying a word. I started driving slowly, but stopped every so often to look back. He still continued running towards us. We took off and left him there alone in the desert. To this day, I still don't know who the hell that was, what that was about, or why he was hiding out in the scrub brush.